Hi guys, it's Fella Story Media again in collaboration with Defense Watch Africa. We have for you today the 2026 Global Firepower Index report which dropped recently. The report says the top 5 African militaries are 1. Egypt, 2. Algeria, 3. Nigeria, 4. South Africa, and in 5th place, Ethiopia. This brings us to the salient topic: African Union military strength in 2026, power without integration. In 2026, the African Union commands one of the largest pools of military manpower on earth. Collectively, African states field millions of active and reserve personnel, thousands of armored vehicles, combat aircraft, naval platforms, and a growing array of drones and surveillance assets. Yet, despite this raw power, Africa remains one of the most insecure regions in the world. The contradiction at the heart of African security today is simple but profound. Africa has military power, but lacks military integration. This is the story of strength without cohesion, capability without coordination, and potential constrained by politics, fragmentation, and uneven doctrine. According to Global Firepower 2026, Africa military's weight is on paper. Several African states rank among the most military capable in the global south. Egypt remains Africa's top military power, with one of the largest standing armies in the world, a modernized air force, advanced air defense systems, and significant naval reach in both the Mediterranean and Red Sea. Algeria follows closely, driven by heavy investment in armor, air defense, and domestic arms production. In 2025, the Algerian Air Force acquired the Russian Su-57 stealth aircraft. We have Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, fields the largest troop base in sub-Saharan Africa, and remains the continent's most operationally active military. South Africa, while smaller in manpower, retains advanced industrial and technical capabilities unmatched elsewhere on the continent. Ethiopia, Morocco, Angola, and Sudan round out a tier of regionally influential forces. But we can safely say Ethiopia is the 5th African power. On paper, the African Union represents one of the world's largest combined military blocs, but war is not fought on paper. The illusion of aggregate power. The African Union is not NATO. It has no unified command structure, no standing joint force capable of immediate deployment, no integrated air defense, no shared logistics backbone, and no continent-wide intelligence fusion system. As you can see, the chaos in Libya, the assassination of Gaddafi's son, Saif al-Islam. You see, Libya is in chaos, but Egypt and Algeria cannot intervene. Each African military remains primary national in doctrine, planning, and command. As a result, Africa's combined strength does not translate into collective deterrence. This is why insurgent groups move freely across borders. Terror networks exploit seams between national commands. Coups proliferate despite large standing armies. External powers project force more easily than African coalitions. Power exists, but it is siloed. Regional militaries, regional limits. Africa's security architecture is divided into regional blocks: ECOWAS, SADC, EAC, ECCAS, and others, each with varying levels of military coordination. But even at the regional level, integration remains limited. ECOWAS, once Africa's most intervention-ready bloc, has been weakened by internal divisions, coups, and political fragmentation. The SADC struggles with consensus and funding constraints. The East African Standby Force exists largely on paper. The African Standby Force, envisioned as the African Union's rapid reaction arm, remains underdeveloped nearly 2 decades after its conception. Can you imagine? In practice, most interventions rely on ad hoc coalitions led by 1 or 2 dominant states, often Nigeria, Ethiopia, or South Africa, rather than a truly continental force. Manpower versus modern warfare. Another critical gap lies in force composition. Many African militaries remain manpower heavy but technology light. They possess large infantry formations, aging armored fleets, limited ISR, intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, weak air-ground integration, fragmented command and control systems. Modern warfare, however, increasingly favors precision over mass, intelligence over numbers, speed over static defense, data over brute force. Insurgent groups, paradoxically, often adapt faster than states, leveraging commercial drones, encrypted communications, cross-border logistics, and social networks. This is not a failure of courage or professionalism among African soldiers. It is a structural mismatch between legacy force design and contemporary threats. Air power and ISR, a critical shortfall. Air power remains one of Africa's most uneven domains. A handful of states, Egypt, Algeria, Morocco, Nigeria, South Africa, maintain credible air forces. But across much of the continent, aircraft availability rates are low, maintenance capacity is limited, ISR coverage is inconsistent, night fighting capability is rare. This creates blind spots that insurgents exploit. Without persistent ISR, militaries react after attacks, not before them. This is why recent security gains in parts of Africa have often followed external ISR support, whether from the United States, France, Turkey, or private contractors. The reliance is tactical, but the dependency risk is strategic. Naval power, underused and under-integrated. Africa is surrounded by water, yet maritime security remains one of its weakest links. Despite growing navies in Egypt, Algeria, Nigeria, Morocco, and South Africa, most African maritime forces operate independently with limited joint patrols, poor information sharing, and weak integration with air and land forces. This enables piracy, illegal fishing, arms trafficking, smuggling, offshore infrastructure sabotage. Maritime insecurity directly undermines African economies, yet naval integration remains an afterthought. Defense industry, pockets of strength, no ecosystem. Africa does possess islands of defense industrial capability. South Africa retains advanced aerospace and land systems expertise. Egypt and Algeria have expanded domestic production. Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Kenya are interested in local manufacturing and UAVs. Turkey, China, and others increasingly partner with African states on technology transfer. But there is no continental defense industrial strategy. Procurement remains fragmented, small-scale, and vulnerable to corruption. Without scale, African militaries pay more for less and remain dependent on foreign suppliers for critical systems. Why integration has failed so far? Military integration in Africa has stalled for several reasons. Sovereignty concerns, states fear loss of control, political mistrust, rivalries outweigh cooperation, uneven capabilities, integration exposes disparities, funding gaps, no shared defense budget, civil-military tensions, coups undermine trust. These challenges are real but not insurmountable. Other regions have faced similar barriers and adapted. Africa has simply delayed the hard decisions. What integration could look like? Integration does not require a single African army. It requires functional interoperability. That means shared ISR fusion centers, joint border task forces, regional rapid reaction brigades, common training standards, integrated air surveillance corridors, unified counter-terror doctrine. Even modest steps will dramatically increase deterrence and response speed. Strategic cost of delay. The cost of non-integration is rising. Insurgencies spread faster than states respond. External powers fill security vacuums. Civilian populations bear the burden. Military legitimacy erodes under constant internal deployment. African militaries are strong, but they are being asked to do too much, too alone, and too reactively. We now conclude. In 2026, the African Union does not suffer from a lack of soldiers, weapons, or courage. It suffers from a lack of architecture. Power without integration is not power. It is potential unrealized. Until Africa builds the command structures, intelligence networks, and operational frameworks to turn aggregate strength into collective security, its militaries will continue to fight bravely but separately against threats that operate without borders. The next decade will determine whether Africa remains a continent of parallel armies or becomes a continent capable of strategic military cohesion. The strength is already there. The integration is the missing battle.